We are three doctors who have been in practice for a few years. We're going to talk about things that we do for our own health, which are non-conventional. You won't hear from medical authorities, but we believe that these are really good for our health. And if you decide that they might be good for your health as well, you can definitely think about them too. For anybody who enjoys our discussions, please check in the links down below for our separate, unique channel, Doctors of Ojai, where we post a lot of exclusive content, all designed to help with your health and well-being. Dr. Levin, do you want to get us started then? Unconventional.
Yeah, so you may know this term better as intermittent fasting, but what I like to do is really just go through periods where I'm not eating. So I will wake up, I won't have breakfast or anything like that, and I will go for a fairly long time without eating anything. I actually have gotten to the point where I like the sensation of feeling hungry. There's no typical schedule that I use when I do it, but I just go for prolonged periods without eating, and then I don't starve myself. I do eat eventually, but I feel lighter. I feel I can focus more. I feel I can kind of move quicker. So it's something I've been doing more and more because I've grown to like the feeling of it. When you first start, it doesn't feel as good. You feel very hungry and you're kind of obsessing about food. But as you get used to it, it really becomes something that I think makes you feel a lot better. And I have a fair amount of patients. Again, they call it intermittent fasting, a lot of people, but this is just kind of your own way of limiting your food and getting used to that feeling of being hungry and not becoming obsessed with finding food when you're hungry.
I really love that you started with that, Dr. Levin, because yes, it does run contrary to what many of us grew up with. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Eat frequently, which is terrible if you think about insulin resistance and inflammation. It's really bad advice. And you think where we've come from, our historical ancestors who would go sometimes days without food. And I think with where society and culture has gone wrong, the minute you're hungry, you have to gorge yourself. It's okay to be hungry. I personally have also instituted a time-restricted eating regimen over the last 18 months or so, as well as being good for metabolic health. It's also excellent for weight loss. Anybody who actually wants to lose body fat, you will eat during a small window, 6 to 8 hour window. And I had to do it gradually, but now I find my mornings are really energized because I don't eat. I just hydrate myself and first solid food around 1 o'clock.
And that's so true. I mean, I do the same.
Or another
I'm
one.
a big
Yeah.
fan of intermittent fasting. I have so much more energy during the day, and there's a physiologic basis to it because, as you said, insulin resistance goes down, and you don't have these spikes in your blood sugars all day from eating different types of foods. And people often really, when they talk about hunger, they don't realize that a lot of times they're dehydrated. And so by staying hydrated actually can significantly reduce hunger pains, and your body gets tricked into thinking when you're really dehydrated that actually you're hungry. Intermittent fasting also allows your body to break down and metabolize the food that is taken in. If you're continuously pouring in calories, you're not burning the stores of all the calories that you've already developed or have already stored. And so there are some ketogenic diets which are a little bit more extreme, which basically you shift your metabolism from burning pure glucose and sugar to burning fat. And that's where it helps with weight loss as well.
Yeah. And my advice for anybody who wants to do it, most people can do it easily. Obviously, listen to your own body, go gradually. If you're used to eating, what I advise is you start eating, usually say 8 a.m., then push it to 9 a.m., so on and so forth. I never would have thought 18 months ago that I could go to 1 p.m. Even working out, I can still go to 1 p.m. without eating. Hormonally, actually, women find it more difficult to do this than men. So that's something to bear in mind. Dr. Peter, you want to go next?
Sure. Plastics. And when I say plastics, I mean microplastics. And we're hearing this more and more that microplastics are showing up everywhere. And I think at this point, it's really hard to actually get rid of microplastics completely. So what I've done as a consumer is really gone through my house and try to remove every single product, especially in the kitchen, that's made of plastic. And so it's the plastic cutting board. It's the plastic bowls that when you scrape them and when you cut on them, you're releasing these microplastics that get into your food and hence into your digestive system, into your bloodstream. A fascinating and actually horrific fact is that we're seeing is that people who've had carotid artery disease, where we have to do a procedure called a carotid endarterectomy, which is cleaning out the plaque in a carotid artery. Now we're seeing plastics embedded in the walls of the carotid arteries and that plaque that we're taking out, which is just crazy to think about plastics cause significant inflammation in your bodies, as well as other increased carcinogenic risks as well. And it's hard to do. I ordered new Tupperware. It was supposed to be all glass Tupperware. And what does it come with? They all come with plastic containers. And so other things you don't even think about in household foods, like salt. Salt is blast mined. And what happens is you get a lot of these micro contaminants in it, including plastic, into household salt, things you wouldn't even think about, that it's just everywhere. So my goal has been over the past year is reducing microplastics because it's found in the food chain. And you can't at this point get rid of them, but you can certainly minimize it, whether it's using a water bottle that's not plastic, really just focusing on where you're getting your food from, like your fish, because a lot of fish has microplastics in it as well because it's in the ocean. And so it's really just ubiquitous. The key is just to minimize it.
Yeah, that's a really good one because it's a consequence of modern life, isn't it? Plastic is absolutely everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Look around your house. You don't even realize how plastic is everywhere until you start to try to remove it. And you realize actually you really can.
Dr. Peter opened my eyes to this one. And what we started doing is we started using glass jars as storage things. So when we cook, if we have an extra lemon or something, instead of putting it in plastic, you put it in these glass jars. And if you order various things, or you go to the grocery store and you get something that comes in a glass jar, and then when you're done with it, instead of throwing it away, you just clean it out, and that's another storage receptacle. So we've been building an ever larger supply of glass to hold our things inside instead of plastic. We are trying to get rid of plastic in the house. I really do think that's
storing food in plastic. The plastic leaches chemicals into the food. It's not necessarily you just have to scrape. It's just the actual storage of it is incredible, like how bad it is for you. And it's not often talked about because you go to the grocery store too and look at everything is packaged in plastic.
Yeah, and this is relatively new for humanity to be doing this. All right, my turn next. What do I do that is unconventional that you won't hear doctors recommend, or certainly not in any medical textbooks? Well, if I have minor aches or pains, as actually I frequently do after intense gym workouts, I've got this program and sometimes I'll be a bit achy afterwards, I will take a turmeric capsule. I will not take ibuprofen or acetaminophen, Tylenol, paracetamol. I find that works really well for me. And I really believe in the therapeutic effects of turmeric. Curcumin is the active component of turmeric. I'm a big believer in eating turmeric. Now, I do both. I add turmeric to food. I was brought up eating Indian food, which has turmeric in it. And I will add turmeric now to even when I'm cooking something which isn't Indian food, a stir fry, even something like a glass of milk, I'll mix turmeric in there. But there is some evidence that actually if you heat it up, as often happens in food, it won't be as potent. So curcumin is one of nature's probably strongest anti-inflammation compounds. Multiple research studies on this. If you dive in, you just won't hear it talked about. So when I get joint aches, to get to the story here, I will take a couple of turmeric capsules and I find it really helps me. I believe it's based on science. Probably won't be studied because there's no money in studying these things. But to me, it makes sense. And there are many anti-inflammation agents out there in nature, which I believe can help with minor issues like joint pains. Sometimes I'll do it when I have a headache as well. And it really does help me.
Actually, it's so true. I mean, really reducing inflammation long term with taking like a turmeric inflammation supplement really helps, as opposed to taking things like Advil, ibuprofen, which can be really harmful to your stomach lining, your kidney function. It can raise blood pressure. And so I think actually the benefits of turmeric far outweighs the benefits of a lot of the non-steroidal medications like Advil, Motrin, and Aleve. And I think it's just much safer. And really, it's not talked about when you see a doctor because it's just not part of the whole medical system complex, right?
Well, I also think this is one of those things where it's been known about in another part of the world for a very long time. It's not a huge part of the American diet. So I think we in this country don't have a lot of experience with it, whereas countries like India have known that turmeric has enormous health benefits for a very long time. That's why it's such a huge component of so many different dishes and why it's used. First of all, it has great flavor, but second of all, it's actively and purposefully put into many dishes because they know it has these wonderful anti-inflammatory effects. So I think that's where we can learn a lot from other countries that are doing that right.
I think doctors are actually inherently trained to cause doubt in people about functional medicine and the supplements like turmeric. And And it's really because of probably Big Pharma has always pushed doctors to prescribe medications. So next time you see your doctor, you tell them you take turmeric and see what their reaction is. Do they roll their eyes? Do they not even address it? Or do they tell you to stop it? Because if they do, they probably just don't understand like the benefits of it.
Yeah. And also, it's about those benefits. Like, I'm not the only person. I know many people who have joint aches and have said they take turmeric and it helps. So to me, it's ridiculous. Who is any doctor to tell somebody it doesn't help them when it does? I know that I have some aches and pains after a workout. I take turmeric and I feel better. Same goes for a mild headache. So I'll continue to do so. And it's astonishing. And this applies to many different things, not turmeric, but you can go online and you can see studies about, oh, turmeric is dangerous. It's causing liver problems. It's causing this. What they don't mention in the article is somebody has consumed an insane amount, unthinkable amount of turmeric. We're talking about a mild, sensible amount, a teeny a bit of turmeric, but those same medical journals or mainstream media outlets will never talk about side effects from everything that you're seeing now, whether it's a commonly prescribed medication like a statin or Ozempic even. They will barely touch upon that when side effects are much more. It's a synthetic agent.
Open the handout. It's like 10 pages long.
Yeah.
The commercials where at the end, the announcer spurts off like 20 different things in about 2 seconds and it all comes on to call your doctor. It's crazy. And so.
Yeah, I will continue to take my turmeric. Dr. Ben, you want to go next?
Sure. I want to talk about cold plunges. So they don't have to be cold plunges, but those cold shocks to your system. So whether that be taking a cold shower in the morning just to kind of surprise yourself in the morning, or going for a brisk walk when it's chilly. I'm not talking about overexposure, but giving that quick cold shock to your body, I think does wonders. And it wakes you up and it makes you feel energized. And there is some evidence behind it, correct, Dr. Peter? You've talked about this.
No, absolutely. It's controlled exposure. And so it's either people do cold plunges, they go outside in cold weather for a short period of time. And what's it doing? It's causing stress on your arterial walls. And so that increase in sympathetic stress. And then you remove the cold and you have an increase in your peaceful parasympathetic response. And what that's really doing is you're really strengthening your body's response to stress. You're introducing stress in a controlled situation and then you're removing it. And it's sort of like anything you condition your body to, it does better over time. And so your body is able to really fine tune itself into really controlling on how it reacts to stress by cold plunges and all the things you just mentioned. So there is a definite basis of it, and lots of cultures and lots of different people around the world do that right now. And it's actually a truly benefit.
I've actually started doing that over the last couple of years. I grew up like a lot of people thinking, oh, when it's cold, you need to bundle up, don't get outside. But I've been taking morning walks when it's cold where we are in the world. It's absolutely freezing. And I go out, and I would urge anybody to be careful if it's icy or anything, but I wear my big boots and I'll go out, get cold air in my face. I've never been into cold showers and cold plunges. I'll be honest. I've tried it a few times. It's not done it for me, but the outside cold air really wakes me up and gives me a good boost in the morning. And you won't hear doctors advocating for that, will you? Doctors all about staying safe. And I get that, by the way, because there are risks for vulnerable people.
It does include shoveling snow. All right. Yeah. So remember, we talked about the vasoconstriction part of really cold weather. So you don't want to go out in the cold weather right away and start shoveling heavy snow, because now you're putting your heart under stress against reduced blood circulation. But it's really what we call the technical term for it, 'cause it just makes it sound like more smart, is hormetic stress. So it's basically introducing intermittent stress to your body, allowing your body to recover. And that change in hormonal pathways really just helps your body recover. It also helps with things like heart rate variability, which are markers of really how well your cardiovascular system responds to stress as well. And so there's definitely a basis to it. I think it's great. I personally do a cold shower all the time. I think that's a great way of waking up.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to interrupt that awesome discussion for a moment. This is the really boring part where I tell you all about our expanding natural health and well-being store. So I will cut right to the chase. Check in the links down below. ohiwellness.com if you're in the USA, North America. ohiwellness.co if you're in the UK, Europe. As somebody who has taken natural supplements for my whole life, it has been a pleasure to work with a great team, formulating unique products covering basically every body system, ranging from immune support, bone support, memory support, heart support, sleep support. We also have an expanding range of food and beverage products. Check out our protein thin snack, and we are expanding on our wellness teas. We've especially had some awesome reviews for our organic chai mix. All those links down below. Okay, back to the discussion. Dr. Peter, you're up next.
I think is often underprescribed, and I think it should be used as like a prescription is good sleep. And so we do know that people who have less than 6 hours of sleep a night are increased risk of heart disease. We know that people who have multiple nightmares during the week are actually can be at an increased risk of heart disease, like a heart attack, more so than someone who's smoking or who are obese. And it's just crazy to think about how sleep really affects hormonal patterns and sympathetic stress in your body. So remember, your sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight stress response. So people who don't let their body shut down with sleep or repair inflammation really disallows that inflammation to burn in the body. And we know that people who have recurrent nightmares are under chronic stress. And it just shows you really like how sleep is just such an important part of your daily routine. And we spend however many hours or how many years of our life sleeping, and we often don't focus on the quality of sleep. So that also means sleeping the right temperature. The ideal temperature we know is between 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. That allows an easier thermoregulation of your body, where your body is able to shut down easier. Your temperature drops a little bit. Your sleep cycles are deeper, as opposed to people who sleep in warmer environments or that 70 degrees Fahrenheit or above. Your body doesn't thermoregulate as well and can actually, interesting enough, lead to disrupted sleep, which all translates to more inflammation, more stress. I mean, think about one bad night of sleep throws you off for days.
That's right. And how many doctors out there have the time really to focus on sleep, but it's should be non-negotiable, because that's when your body regenerates and heals. I think one of the worst feelings, and you touched upon it there, is waking up at night in a hot room and you're under the duvet and you're sweating. It's so uncomfortable. I'm a big believer in I do 60 degrees, and in the summer the AC is up, but I like it cool when I sleep. Actually, there's evidence that men like it much cooler than ladies, actually, according to research. In fact, feel free to comment down below. Let us know what your ideal sleep temperature is, or do you have a debate with your husband or wife about the temperature in the room? That could potentially be something there. If you like
always a debate.
Yeah, exactly. My turn next. Eggs. Huge proponent of eating eggs. I grew up in a time where eggs were kind of demonized. In fact, I remember actually a scene from Only Fools and Horses, which is one of the greatest comedies ever made. I know that Americans watching will be baffled by what this is. I take it you haven't heard of it, but the Brits watching, you know Only Fools and Horses. I remember a scene where Del Boy was in his house and his wife Raquel was looking at what he was eating, and he'd had some sort of health event, and she said, "Doctor warned you to stay off eggs." And that is fairly typical of the advice that was given throughout the 80s, 90s, maybe even earlier, because of the fear of fat and cholesterol. Well, that is now widely debunked, at least by anybody sensible. Eggs are just about the most complete source of nutrition you can get. They contain all 9 essential amino acids, multiple other trace elements, excellent source of healthy fat. You don't need to worry about the middle of the egg. I'm always confused when I hear about egg whites being healthier. Take out the cholesterol, but I eat 4 to 5 eggs every single day. I absolutely love them. I go through phases where I will want them scrambled, then hard boiled, then in an omelet, then sunny side up. But I will do that, and I don't think you will encounter many medical professionals out there who will say, yes, eating that amount of eggs is good. Many still might be concerned about the saturated fat and cholesterol, but I believe they are amazing.
It's really not about the fats per se. And I think that's an old, outdated form. It's really about like the carbs and the processed foods, and eggs are just such a great source of protein. And I truly believe what you said, Sunil. And we know that predictors of longevity, one is lean muscle mass. So you want to get good quality protein. There's a lot of crappy protein out there. The alternative meats, which are supposed to be like red meat, but they're plant-based. A lot of different types of
highly processed. Yeah.
Highly processed meat is what I've been trying to get at. And A good pasture-raised egg has a really good source of protein. And again, all the amino acids are also good for brain health as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that pasture raised, yeah, which is an absolute must for me from hens which have been treated well and not treated really badly, appallingly, like some of the caged animals out there. And you can actually see this. There are videos online where you look at an egg from a pasture raised hen versus a caged hen who's lived a very miserable life. It actually looks different and
Absolutely.
makes
The
sense.
color of the yolk too.
Yeah.
Or if you have access to like a farm fresh egg of a local farm, that's even better.
Yep. I had my eggs today and I will tomorrow morning. Dr. Ben, you go next.
The other one we need to talk about is questioning chronic medications. So this is a certainly non-conventional way of looking at your health because most people are going to tell you, most doctors are going to tell you, these are your medications. I'll tell you when you need to come off them, and there's no reason for you to bring them up. That is the absolute wrong way to practice. So if you are on a lot of medications, if you're on any medications, you need to be questioning why you're on them. You need to understand every single one you're on. And when you talk to your doctor, you need to ask them, do I still need this? Should I still be on this? And if you're not doing that during your visits, you're doing yourself a big disservice, and your doctor's doing you a disservice by not questioning their medications.
Chronic disease management is I mean, we could do 10 more podcasts on this, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And actually, when I accompany any family member to a doctor's appointment, I have to say most of my family members have good doctors, but there are occasions where I will bring up a question, and I can tell most doctors get uncomfortable when this relates to number needed to treat and the true efficacy of chronic disease medications, whether we're talking about statins or other medications. I think blood pressure medications are probably a bit different because you do want to rely on the number if you're treating blood pressure, but with cholesterol, it's a little bit different. But I will question that. And it gets to a bigger point here, like my vision, and I know that you gentlemen think the same way. I applied to medical school thinking that I'm a doctor, somebody is ill, I will do a thorough evaluation, I will write a prescription, a brief prescription, and then they get better. But we have moved dramatically to a situation where tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people are prescribed drugs and they take it every day. But if you look at the actual benefits and efficacy, absolutely minimal, if not negative.
It's amazing statistically about how many medications people over the age of 65 are on an average, I think, of 6 to 8 medications daily. And it's just chronic disease management doesn't always mean that you have to keep adding medications. And it also doesn't mean that you can't take away medications at some point. And that's always an important thing to talk to your doctor about because people are just essentially put on medications and are never reevaluated. Your body changes over time. You may be heavy, you may be a lot lighter. You may not need all those medications.
That's correct, yes. Well, I want to finish up with alcohol, not drinking alcohol right now, but talking about alcohol because I think that this is a very nuanced area. Potential benefits of alcohol in mild quantities. And I want to relate the fact that I have seen an extraordinarily large amount of very healthy people over the age of 85, frequently in their 90s, in the hospital. And I will always ask them, what's your secret? And the amount of them that say, I have a cocktail every single night. Now, could there be confounding variables? Could there be survival bias? But I think that there really might be something to this. Dr. Peter, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this.
Absolutely. The cutest couple, they've been married for over 70 years. And they honestly say that one of the secrets to their marriage is that every day at 5 o'clock, they had what they call tea time, where they had not necessarily tea, but they had a cocktail. And it's really the socialization. We know that that is a key to longevity. And I think that plays a big role in it. And really, it's about moderation. And so we're talking about alcohol. You know your body best, and you know if you are someone that can take it in moderation. Because the flip side of it is too much alcohol has adverse effects on the liver and the heart, and it drops other things in your body like magnesium. And that's why people lots of times after having alcohol get flutter or palpitations because their magnesium level drops. And so it does have some benefits in small amounts, again, with increased socialization, but also antioxidant properties. And we know that certain amounts of red wine and smaller amounts have antioxidant property, and that can help reduce inflammation in the body. And so there is some benefits.
Yeah, I mean, we're increasingly moving towards, if you're in the online space, viewing alcohol as a Puritan issue. Alcohol is a toxin. Yes, it is a toxin technically, but you can't negate certain positive effects, which many people benefit. I mean, take the late great Queen of Great Britain. She was famous for her favorite gin and tonic. What was it? A Dubonnet with gin that she used to have every day, early in the afternoon. And she lived into her 90s. But I can't ignore the fact that I see that time and time again. And I don't think it's as simple as the advice, which is now increasingly being pushed, which is to have no alcohol. I'm not sure whether people will even listen to that advice. But Dr. Ben, I know you've got some thoughts as well on the relaxation element of this.
We see multiple countries all over the world where having moderate alcohol consumption is a way of life, and they have excellent longevity. You could look at places in Italy where having a glass of wine every night is a very common phenomenon, and they have excellent longevity. You can look at places in France, same thing. Wine is a big part of the culture. People have it almost every night. And again, living to very old ages, very minimal health issues like the kinds we suffer here. So that is a common phenomenon. And to say it is absolutely black and white, it's a toxin, it's going to kill you. Yes, in extremes, of course, most things will. But I think it's a nice way to relax, again, in moderation. I think it's something that can be used to socialize, something that can be used as kind of a small routine that, if you do it correctly, yes, can absolutely have health benefits. No question.
It can. Yeah.
So true. And if you don't do it incorrectly, have too much, remember that it will disrupt sleep patterns and increase anxiety and stress. So it's really that key of what we're aiming at is really moderation.
Yeah, that's right. And another caveat is the people that I see who say, oh, alcohol does them good and they look really good and they're in their 80s and 90s are all in quite good shape, actually. And they don't have insulin resistance and inflammation. So I would add that if you have alcohol on top of a disease process, it's probably a bad thing. And one of the quirks about modern day society, you may have seen these articles, the newest generation is drinking less. Alcohol companies are making less profit. But at the same time, this generation is extremely unhealthy. Never have we seen so many adolescents and people in their 20s with obesity and insulin resistance. So yes, they've ticked one box. Maybe not drinking as much as prior generations, but they're still very unhealthy, more unhealthy than a lot of you watching your generation when you were the same age.
So true.
All right, closing statements then from each of us. Dr. Peter, you want to go first?
The biggest advice I can give you is just because it's a non-conventional approach does not mean it's wrong, and you should never be doubted. And moderation is a key, but most importantly is consistency. And is changing habits and make it consistent. Don't do it just because it's a New Year's. Make it a daily ritual.
There are many things that we know are true for everyone. We know that if you do certain things or don't do certain things, it will definitely lead toward harm or not. However, you are an individual. There are things that are going to be good for you that aren't necessarily good for me. And when you find those things, it doesn't mean you're necessarily wrong. So feel free to go out there and explore the things you like to do and the things that you think make you healthy, and do your own homework, do your own research, and follow people that you think have the right advice and listen to them closely.
Yeah. There is a giant fly behind the camera right now. And if you see us smiling, that is why we are worried it's going to come this way. So I'm going to try to finish before the fly comes my way. What is a fly like that doing at this time of year when it's freezing? Okay. My piece of advice would be this. Nothing trumps what you see with your eyes, what you hear with your ears. Use your own sense. All around you, there are stories of people who look really healthy, who are doing well, who have labs. They are doing things which are not conventional. And you owe it to yourself to have an open mind. The medical profession doesn't know everything. The medical profession frequently is in a position where they're merely following protocols and repeating what they're told. We need to have a lot more critical thinking in medicine. I think many doctors out there do their best every day and they're stuck in a really horrible system. But ultimately, your health, I don't think most of the time is going to come from a doctor or a pill. It is going to come from lifestyle, using your own judgment, and working out what's best for you. Maybe you take a certain pill, react in a certain way. Somebody else takes a certain pill, reacts in a different way. Maybe a morning workout works for you. Maybe an evening workout works for someone else. But the broad principles are all there when it comes to the pillars of health and well-being. On that note, thank you, everybody, for watching. That fly hasn't come my way yet. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Again, feel free to leave a comment down below. Check in the links down below as well for our Doctors of Ojai channel and our natural health and wellbeing store, which we're very excited to be expanding, natural supplements and more food and beverage products. Take care, everyone. Stay well, keep going, and we will speak to you in the next show.